Los Angeles has a secret. Not the Hollywood kind, not the glamorous kind. This one hides in plain sight. Every time you turn on a faucet in LA, every time a lawn gets watered in Beverly Hills, every time a swimming pool sparkles under the California sun. The secret is this: Los Angeles should not exist, not here. Not at this scale, not with nearly 4 million people in the city, not with 10 million in the county, not with 19 million depending on water that travels hundreds of miles through desert. The city was built in a place where water doesn't naturally exist, and the water that keeps it alive, much of it was stolen. Taken from valleys that once thrived, diverted from rivers that once flowed to the sea, drawn from a reservoir system that scientists now say is experiencing its worst drought in 1,200 years. Lake Mead sits at 35% capacity. Lake Powell hovers just 48 feet above the point where it can no longer generate electricity. 7 states are fighting over a river that supplies 40 million people, and the agreements that kept the peace, they expire in 2026. Los Angeles built its empire on water it never truly owned. Now that water is disappearing, and the city has no backup plan. This is the story of America's greatest water heist, the environmental catastrophe it created, and the reckoning that may finally be arriving. Because when you build a city of dreams in the middle of a desert, eventually the desert comes to collect. In 1900, Los Angeles was a small town. Population, 102,479. America's 36th largest city, smaller than Flint, Michigan. Smaller than Worcester, Massachusetts. The city had one river, the Los Angeles River, and that river could support maybe 250,000 people. After that, the math simply stopped working. But William Mulholland saw something different. Mulholland was a self-taught engineer, an Irish immigrant who had worked as a sailor, a gold digger, a ditch tender. He rose through the ranks to become the head of Los Angeles Water, and he had a vision that bordered on madness. He wanted to build a city of millions. In a desert, where the annual rainfall averages just 15 inches. If you don't get the water, you won't need it, Mulholland famously said. So he went looking for water. In 1904, Mulholland and former Mayor Fred Eaton took a camping trip to the Owens Valley, 250 miles northeast of Los Angeles, on the eastern slope of the Sierra Nevada mountains. What they found was paradise. The Owens River flowed strong. Owens Lake stretched 110 square miles. Farmers irrigated their fields. Ranchers watered their cattle. The local Paiute people had lived there for centuries, sustained by this water. Eaton looked at all that abundance and saw only one thing: a resource to be captured. What happened next was one of the most audacious land grabs in American history. Eaton began buying water rights. He told farmers he was working for the federal government, that a reclamation project would bring irrigation to the valley. Some settlers thought he was getting into cattle ranching. They had no idea Los Angeles was coming for their water. Meanwhile, Mulholland worked the political angles. He misled Owens Valley residents, claiming Los Angeles would only use unused flows. He was planning to take everything. By 1905, Los Angeles had secured enough water rights to begin construction. Voters approved $24.5 million in bonds, an astronomical sum for its time. And on November 5, 1913, water from the Owens River finally reached Los Angeles. At the dedication ceremony, 40,000 people gathered. The gates opened. Water cascaded down a spillway in the San Fernando Valley. Mulholland spoke 5 words that would echo through history. There it is. Take it. Los Angeles did take it. All of it. And the Owens Valley began to die. Within 10 years, Owens Lake was gone. A 110 square mile body of water vanished. What remained was a dry alkali flat. White, cracked, poisonous. The farmers of Owens Valley watched their livelihood evaporate. Literally, their irrigation canals ran dry. Their orchards withered. Their cattle had nothing to drink. What had been called the Switzerland of California transformed into desert. The valley fought back. In 1924, armed farmers seized the Alabama Gate spillway. They opened the aqueduct and let the water flow back into the dry Owens Lake riverbed. It was an act of nonviolent civil disobedience against a city 250 miles away. Los Angeles responded with detectives and armed guards. Then, the dynamite started. Between 1924 and 1931, farmers bombed the aqueduct 11 times. 500 pounds of dynamite. Blown sections of pipe. Desperate attempts to stop the theft of their water. A Los Angeles Times headline called it terrorism and sabotage. But to the people of Owens Valley, they were defending their homes, their farms, their way of life. They lost. By 1926, Los Angeles controlled 90% of the valley's land and water. The Watterson brothers, who led the resistance, were imprisoned for embezzlement when their bank failed. The valley's economy collapsed, and the aqueduct kept flowing. But here's what Los Angeles never anticipated. The environmental consequences would come back to haunt them. That dry lake bed. It became the largest source of carcinogenic dust pollution in North America. Every year, winds kick up 4 million tons of toxic alkali dust from Owens Lake. Arsenic, heavy metals, particulate matter small enough to lodge permanently in human lungs. The EPA declared it the worst dust pollution problem in the United States. The city that stole the water is now paying $2.5 billion to control the dust. 60,000 acre-feet of water annually goes back to the dry lake bed, just to keep it from poisoning the air. That's enough water for 240,000 households, sprayed on a dead lake. To mitigate a disaster Los Angeles created over a century ago, William Mulholland's ghost still haunts the Owens Valley. And the irony is crushing. Los Angeles now sends water back to the place it stole from, not to restore what was lost, but to keep the consequences from killing people. The Owens Valley wasn't enough. By the 1920s, Los Angeles was growing faster than even Mulholland predicted. The city needed more water. Always more. So they looked east, to the Colorado River. In 1928, Los Angeles and 12 other Southern California cities formed the Metropolitan Water District. Their mission: build an aqueduct from the Colorado River to the coast, 242 miles across the Mojave Desert. The Colorado River Aqueduct opened in 1941. Suddenly, Southern California had access to a vast new water supply. Cities boomed, suburbs sprawled, swimming pools multiplied, golf courses bloomed in the desert. But there was a problem hiding in the numbers. When negotiators divided the Colorado River in 1922, they made their calculations during the wettest period in the river's recorded history. They allocated 16.5 million acre-feet of water annually. The river's actual average flow, closer to 12 million acre-feet. From the very beginning, the Colorado River was overallocated. More water promised than actually existed. For decades, this worked. Reservoirs filled. Lake Mead behind Hoover Dam. Lake Powell behind Glen Canyon Dam. Together they held 50 million acre-feet of storage. A massive buffer against reality. Then, reality arrived. In 2000, the Southwest entered what scientists now call a mega-drought. Not just a dry spell. Not just a bad decade. A climate shift. Tree ring data reveals the truth. The current drought is the worst in 1,200 years, since A.D. 800 AD. Longer than the rise and fall of empires, and 42% of this drought severity comes directly from human-caused climate change. Look at the reservoirs. Lake Powell, 35% full. 162 feet below capacity, just 48 feet above minimum power pool, the level where it can no longer generate electricity. Some projections show it could stop releasing water downstream by the end of 2026. Lake Mead, 35% full. The bathtub ring of mineral deposits now stretches over 150 feet up the canyon walls. A visible scar marking where water used to be. Combined store it, in both reservoirs. 37% of capacity. If Lake Mead reaches dead pool at 895 feet, water stops flowing through Hoover Dam entirely. No releases downstream. No electricity. The entire lower basin water supply collapses. 40 million people depend on this river. Major cities: Los Angeles, San Diego, Phoenix, Las Vegas, Denver. Some of America's most productive agricultural regions. And here, as what most people do I know, California has historically taken more than its legal share. For years, when other states didn't use their full allocations, California grabbed the surplus. Those days are over. Arizona has already faced cuts. Nevada has faced cuts. Mexico has faced cuts. California's turn is coming. The agreements governing the Colorado River expire in 2026. 7 states must negotiate new terms. The lower basin states California, Arizona, Nevada have proposed cutting 1.5 million acre-feet annually. But experts say 2 to 4 million acre-feet in cuts may be necessary. Nobody wants to go first. Nobody wants to sacrifice more than their neighbor. Meanwhile, the river keeps shrinking. In 1974, a film captured everything Los Angeles wanted to forget. Chinatown. Jack Nicholson as a private detective, Faye Dunaway as a mysterious woman, John Huston as the villain Noah Cross, a conspiracy to steal water from farmers to enrich land speculators. The film was fiction, but its foundation was fact. Screenwriter Robert Town based his story on the California water wars. The character Hollis Mulray echoed William Mulholland. The San Fernando Valley land scheme mirrored reality. When the Los Angeles Aqueduct was announced, a syndicate of wealthy investors had already bought 16,200 acres in the San Fernando Valley. Land purchased at $30 an acre soon soared to $300. Then higher. Moses Sherman, a member of the Board of Water Commissioners, was part of this syndicate. The water wasn't just for the city. It was for making certain people very, very rich. Politicians, ugly buildings, and whores all get respectable if they last long enough. Noah Cross says in the film, Mulholland's story didn't end with triumph. In 1926, he built the St. Francis Dam north of Los Angeles, a reservoir to store water from the aqueduct. The dam failed his safety inspection just 12 hours before it collapsed. On March 12, 1928, the dam burst. A 100-foot wall of water roared down San Francisco Canyon. It reached the Pacific Ocean near Ventura and Oxnard. At least 431 people died. Some estimates run higher. Bodies washed out to sea, never recovered. It was California's greatest man-made disaster. Mulholland took full responsibility. He resigned in disgrace. He spent his final years in obscurity, haunted by the dead. There it is. Take it. Los Angeles took the water, and it also took the consequences. They destroyed Valley, the toxic dust, the collapsed dam. The dead. The city named streets after Mulholland Drive winds through the Hollywood Hills, offering views of the empire as water built. But in the Owens Valley, his name is still spoken with bitterness. Over a century later, the wounds haven't healed, and now the Colorado River is dying too. Let's talk about what Los Angeles actually consumes. The Metropolitan Water District serves 19 million people across 6 Southern California counties. It imports water from 2 sources: the Colorado River in Northern California, via the State Water Project. Los Angeles proper, the city of 4 million, gets roughly 57% of its water from MW. The rest comes from local groundwater, the Los Angeles Aqueduct, and recycled water. Southern Californians now use a record low 114 gallons per person per day, down from 209 gallons in 1990. Conservation efforts have worked. Per capita usage has dropped 45% in 3 decades. But here's the problem. It's not enough. Even with conservation, even with recycling, even with desalination projects, Southern California cannot survive on local water alone. The region depends entirely on imported supplies, and those supplies are shrinking. The State Water Project allocation for 2024 started at just 10% of requested supplies. That means Southern California asked for water and received one. The Colorado River is in Tier 1 shortage conditions. Arizona lost 512,000 acre-feet, minus 18% of its allocation. Nevada lost 21,000 acre-feet, minus 7% of its share. California has been largely protected so far. not because it's less dependent, because of legal seniority. California has older water rights than Arizona, but when Lake Mead drops further, California's protection ends. At 1,050 feet elevation, California faces heavy shortage conditions. The August 2025 projections show Lake Mead could drop below 1,050 feet by July 2026. The 2027 worst-case projections show Lake Mead at 1,022 feet, still above dead pool, but barely generating power and requiring massive cuts to all lower basin states. Think about what this means for Los Angeles. Every lawn, every swimming pool, every car wash, every restaurant, every hospital, every fire department, every school, all dependent on water that must travel hundreds of miles across desert, from rivers that are drying, from reservoirs that are emptying, from a system built on century-old assumptions that no longer hold. The Metropolitan Water District has storage reserves, Diamond Valley Lake, groundwater banks, emergency supplies. But reserves are finite, day by time, not solutions. Climate scientists project the Southwest drought could persist through 2100. Maybe longer. The Pacific Decadal Oscillation that historically brought wet periods to California may be disrupted permanently by warming. This isn't a crisis that ends with one good winter. This is the new normal. Here's a question nobody wants to answer. When water becomes scarce, who decides who gets it? In California, approximately 80% of water goes to agriculture. Almonds, pistachios, rice, cotton, alfalfa for cattle feed. Some of these crops require enormous amounts of water. A single almond needs about a gallon to produce. California grows 80% of the world's almonds. That's a lot of gallons. Meanwhile, cities ration. Residents face watering restrictions. Brown lawns become civic virtue, but drive through the Central Valley during a drought year. The fields are green. The sprinklers are running. Different rules for different users. Urban Southern California has actually reduced per capita water usage dramatically. The cuts have already happened. Conservation is already a way of life. Agriculture has been slower to adapt, partly because farming depends on predictable water supplies, partly because political power protects agricultural water rights. When Lake Mead triggers deeper shortages, who sacrifices? The farmer growing alfalfa in the desert. The city of 4 million people. The tribe whose water rights predate both. Speaking of tribes, indigenous water rights on the Colorado River are massive, legally guaranteed, and largely unquantified. 30 tribal nations have claims to Colorado River water. Many of these claims were never fully settled. As the river shrinks, these claims gain importance. The Navajo Nation alone may have rights to 700,000 acre-feet NYE. They're currently using far less, but they have the legal standing to demand more. Any post-2026 agreement must address tribal water rights. It's not optional, it's legally required. And then there's Mexico. The United States has treaty obligations to deliver water across the border. 1.5 million acre-feet. UNWAJI. Mexico has already faced cuts under the drought contingency plans. 7 states, 30 tribes. A foreign nation, 40 million people. One shrinking river. Everyone has legal claims. Everyone has political power. Everyone has desperate needs. The current negotiations have stalled. States point fingers at each other. The lower basin wants cuts shared across all 7 states. The upper basin argues they shouldn't sacrifice for California's ovarious. December 2025. Negotiators met in Las Vegas. No agreement. January 2026. Deadlines approaching. No consensus. The federal government may have to impose a solution. Nobody wants that. Federal intervention means reverting to pre-2007 operating guidelines. Chaos. Unpredictability. Lawsuits. But nobody wants to cut their own water either. The Colorado River Basin is, quite literally, 50 feet from collapse, and an agreement to save it is nowhere in sight. Los Angeles still shimmers. The pools still sparkle. The lawns are slightly browner now, but still green compared to honest desert. The fountains at the Grove still spray. The studio lots still host productions. The restaurants still serve ice water without being asked. From space, you can see the Los Angeles basin as an interruption, a patch of green and gray and brown and beige terrain, a city that willed itself into existence through engineering, politics, and theft. But look closer. Drive up Interstate 5, toward the Grapevine. Notice the California Aqueduct running parallel to the highway. That concrete channel carries Northern California water south. It lifts water 1,926 feet over the Tehachapi Mountains, the tallest water lift in the world. That infrastructure is aging. The pipes are corroding. The pumps need replacement. Then drive northeast on 395, through the Mojave, past Lone Pine and Independence. Stand at the edge of Owens Lake. What you'll see is aftermath. Dust control infrastructure covers 48.6 square miles, an area the size of San Francisco. Sprinklers spray water on alkali flats. Gravel covers toxic soil. Vegetation struggles to grow in salt. This is what taking it cost. And now imagine the same thing happening to the Colorado River. Lake Mead dropping below Dead Pool. Hoover-Dam-Sila. Phoenix, facing water rationing. Las Vegas, a city that literally shouldn't exist, confronting existential questions. The January 2025 fires that devastated Pacific Palisades and Malibu. 180,000 people evacuated. Billions in damage. And the irony, firefighters struggled with water pressure. In some neighborhoods, hydrants ran dry. The system couldn't keep up with demand. Los Angeles has always been a city of contradictions. Glamour and homelessness. Wealth and poverty, dreams and nightmares. Now add water and dust, abundance and scarcity, taking and paying. The bill is coming due. So we are a city of nearly 4 million, a region of 19 million, built on stolen water, sustained by a dying river, facing a drought that may last centuries. What happens next? Nobody knows. Los Angeles has options: desalination plants that turn seawater into fresh water, recycling programs that treat wastewater until it's drinkable again, groundwater banking that stores wettier surpluses underground. The city has pledged to recycle 100% of its wastewater by 2035, to capture more stormwater, to reduce dependence on imported supplies. But will it be enough? Will it be fast enough? The mega drought doesn't care about deadlines. The Colorado River doesn't negotiate. Lake Mead doesn't wait for consensus. And the ghosts of the Owens Valley still haunt the aqueduct. Every drop that flows to Los Angeles carries history. Stolen water. Destroyed ecosystems. Displaced peoples. Broken promises. There it is. Take it. Los Angeles took it for over a century. And now the question becomes, what happens when there's nothing left to take? Maybe the city adapts. Maybe technology saves the day. Maybe a wet decade arrives and everyone exhales. Or maybe the desert finally reclaims what was always its own. The story of Los Angeles water is the story of America itself. Ambition without limit. Growth without consequence. Taking without asking. Until the day the taking stops. Because when you build a city on stolen water, eventually the theft comes to light. Eventually, the debt comes due. Eventually, the desert remembers what it lost. Los Angeles has always been a city of dreams. Some dreams last forever. Some dreams dry up and blow away.